पूज्य स्वामी सदानंद जी, Shri Dinesh Kamath, I should say Acharya Dinesh Kamath, and Ananta Krishnan, Ananta Kalyana Krishnan, and friends here. தேசிய மறுமலர்ச்சியின் தமிழ்ல சொல்ற மாதிரி இங்கிலீஷ்ல நேஷனல் ரெனிசான்ஸ். India is in need of national renaissance because of 1,000 years of foreign aggression has created a certain fossilization in our culture, and therefore we need a renaissance to clean all that, and that can be only done by the revival of Sanskrit. That is the first principle. The British filled a lot of rubbish in our brain. They talk about Aryans and Dravidians, that India was ruled by Dravidians, then Aryans came from Khyber Pass and used brute force to drive Dravidians to the south. Dravida is a term not of a community but of a region called South India. Tenanade Dravidan Sulva Sanskrit. And it was used by Adi Shankara when he challenged Mandana Mishra to a debate to describe himself as Dravida Shishu. And it was clear to him where the three oceans, Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean, Hind Mahasagar, they meet, that is Dravida. So many people say the original word must have been a sandhi of tra means three, vida means which, shoreline. But this was fed into our brains, so much so that a movement was started in Tamil Nadu called Dravida Munnetra Kalagam or Dravida Kalagam. But the truth is that there was no basis for it. I once had a discussion with Mr. Karunanidhi about this issue, and he was saying that he was going to celebrate Ravana Leela, not Ravan Leela. I said, why? He said, because Ravana was a Dravida. He was the king of Sri Lanka. But I told him Ravana was not a Dravida by your terminology. He was an Aryan because he was born near Delhi in a village called Bisrak. Even today, 3 days ago, the Times of India had a big story of their correspondent visiting that village near an area called Noida, near Delhi, a village where people believe in Ravan and they don't celebrate Ram Leela. Ravan was born in Bisrak in Uttar Pradesh, Bisrak village, went to Mansarovar, got Lord Shiva's boon or varam, and then he came and conquered his cousin's kingdom, Kuber's kingdom in Sri Lanka. That's how he became king of Sri Lanka. And there is no difference between Aryans and Dravidians. This Aryan concept is not there in our Sanskrit literature. Arya is there, which means a gentleman or a gentle person. And Dravida means South India. And now the new scientific studies called DNA Studies of Indians, says all Indians have the same DNA. Journal of Genetics, University of Cambridge, Journal of Anthropology of the University of Mysore, Journal of Genetics, University of Houston, all of them have carried this research. There is no difference in DNA between a Brahmin and a Shudra or a scheduled caste. It is unfortunate we have this development of the last 1500 years of scheduled caste. But once they are given adequate education, there is no difference. Dr. Ambedkar was from scheduled caste. He was in a caste called Maha. He was under a Brahmin teacher called Ambedkar. His own name was Bhim Rao Maha. But his teacher said, you are a very bright student. I want you to progress, so change your name to my name. So the Brahmin's teacher's name of Ambedkar was accepted by him. He went to Columbia University, got a PhD in economics. Then he went to London, got a law degree, came to India and became chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution and piloted the constitutional bill and adopted one of the world's best constitutions ever produced. And they call him scheduled caste. He himself was against it. But he found this 1,000 years of foreign aggression had ossified the mind, and the British were fanning it. Ambedkar is popularly called by some people as Bhim Rao. But Jawaharlal Nehru went to University of Cambridge and failed the exam. And he is called Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. These are the prejudices which have to be remembered. Who opposed Sanskrit as a compulsory national language in the constitution? Jawaharlal Nehru. Who proposed that the national language of India in the Constituent Assembly is proposed that national language of India should be Sanskrit? Dr. Ambedkar. So how can you say that only Brahmins will learn Sanskrit? I will say anyone who learns Sanskrit is a Brahmin. All these divisions must go. We must regard ourselves as only one thing because the DNA says we are all same. No more all these divisions. We are Hindu and we want to convert this country into a glorious country. And Muslims, Christians, others, their ancestors are also Hindu. So this country of Hindustan is of Hindus and those others whose ancestors are Hindus. So their divisions has to go and therefore everybody must learn Sanskrit. Why Sanskrit? Why not Hindi? Because of 5 reasons. Number 1, if you want to learn the correct history of India, you have to be able to read the Puranas. And if you want to read correctly the Puranas, you have to know Sanskrit. Most of the translations have been done by Britishers and they twisted it. Puranas, you know your history, you have to know Sanskrit. If you want to know how to communicate with other parts of India quickly, then also you must know Sanskrit because every language of India has Sanskrit words. I once took a dictionary of the Madras University produced by the most hardcore Dravidian movement scholars of Tamil to English. and I counted all the words which are in from Sanskrit. 41% of that dictionary was Sanskrit words. Even on this I had a quarrel with Karunanidhi. First I told him, your name is Sanskrit. Then I said, when you say election symbol, you say Chinnam. Chinnam is Sanskrit for chin. In Sanskrit you say chin. In Tamil you say Chinnam. And what is this? His Chinnam, Udayan Suryan. Pure Sanskrit. What is this prejudice? So to communicate, Malayalam has almost 60% words Sanskrit. Bengali has 80% Sanskrit. Most of the languages have Sanskrit words. And we now, when we are inventing new words, we say Lok Sabha. Everybody says Lok Sabha. Nobody says parliament anymore. That's Sanskrit. If you want to know how to argue in court, the Mimamsa school tells you the legal logic. That is Sanskrit. Modern science, Sanskrit. In the NASA, they did a search that people are born, they get educated, they acquire knowledge, and that knowledge, after they retire and die, disappears with them. So let us make people speak to the computer of what they learnt in their life. In simple terms, this is called artificial intelligence. Now somebody will speak in French, somebody will speak in Russian, somebody will speak in English. So is there some common language which the computer can translate it to? And they did research and came to the conclusion that the only computer-friendly language in the whole world is Sanskrit, and therefore artificial intelligence, you must know Sanskrit. Please go and read, go to your search engines, the Google, and just type NASA and Sanskrit, all that literature will come out. In the Journal of Artificial Intelligence of NASA, they have prescribed that the most computer-friendly language is Sanskrit. Today, British schools are making Sanskrit compulsory. One of the most prestigious schools, St. John's School in London, they teach Sanskrit. When I asked the teacher there, why are you teaching Sanskrit? He said, because when you recite Sanskrit shlokas, it generates vibrations in your body and your brain then has a superior development. Of course, if Sanskrit becomes fashionable in England and America, then we'll also start learning Sanskrit. What becomes fashionable there, we also accept blindly. But the fact is, the time has come for us to convert this huge treasure, and I congratulate Samskrita Bharati for doing this excellent work. And I want to say that I want to come and address your future conference in Sanskrit after brushing up my Sanskrit. Now, as it was pointed out, it is already, Dr. Ambedkar said that the best language for India is Sanskrit. But because there was opposition, he could not pass it. So ultimately, what did he pass? Article 351 of the Constitution, that Hindi shall be the link language in the future, but its vocabulary shall be drawn from Sanskrit. That is written in the Constitution. The Hindi spoken in Uttar Pradesh is not the Hindi which is the official language. The official Indian link language is Sanskrit, is Hindi with Sanskrit vocabulary according to Article 351 of the Constitution. And if that happens, everyone will find it easy to understand. Anna Durai in Rajya Sabha, 1962, he made a speech and he said, if it is Atal Bihari Vajpayee's Hindi, then I am the teacher. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was Hindi, na Vadiyar in Sunnar. Now Vadiyar is also Sanskrit. It is not Tamil. Vadiyar. So this is the proximity today. And therefore, I would say that you have to bring Sanskrit. Everywhere, suddenly these people get up and say, oh, that is communal. Sanskrit means communal. Om is communal. In Sanskrit, there is a shloka which says that the Om comes from the echo of the sun. NASA sent spaceship towards the sun, and they recorded the sound coming from the sun, and it is there in the NASA publications, and they say, what do they say? That the sound that came from the sun, which we recorded in our spaceship, is Om, the very sound. And NASA goes on to say, this is the very sound which the Indian rishis and sadhus had called the word Om. They give the credit to us. We have in Sanskrit literature decimal, we decided, we found out. Zero, we found out. Algebra, we found out. Calculus, we found out. All this we did till these foreign aggressions. And now they are saying that Om is the sound coming from the sun. Why don't we hear it? Because our hearing, we can only pick up those sounds which are above 1,000 hertz. Dogs can pick up those sounds which we cannot pick up. Our ears cannot pick up. So therefore, if you want to hear the sound from the sun, you have to have special equipment for it. So here we are today, where we find that people are saying Om is not secular. How is it not secular? It's the sound of the sun. Moreover, a Supreme Court judgment of a bench of Justice Hansaria and Kuldeep Singh, they said in 1994 that Sanskrit is not at all connected with any religion. It is the source of India's knowledge, and therefore it should be made as a compulsory elective subject in every school. We are trying to do that, but because of the fact that if the country unites, then many people will not be able to win elections, who win elections by division, and therefore they are opposing it. I therefore say to you that we have to now find ways to develop Sanskrit to the point where everyone starts learning Sanskrit. As Acharya Kamath said just now, in 10 days you can learn Sanskrit. This is deliberately spread that Sanskrit is a dead language, Sanskrit is a difficult language, Sanskrit is impossible. Not only Sanskrit. In Tamil Nadu, Tamil will be there. But interstate communication, Sanskrit, goal, our lakshya. Our goal will be for Sanskrit. International, English. Till Sanskrit replaces English also. And I predict in 50 years, Sanskrit will, because of computers, because of the electronics and the software and the development of the computer, in 50 years the world language today is English, but 50 years from now it will be Sanskrit. So let us start learning Sanskrit today. Before the foreigners learn before us. When in the 1950s yoga was being advocated, people said, oh, what is all this twisting your bodies and all that. Later on, in America, Hollywood actresses started using yoga. And now we are all yoga fans. And like this, meditation. I went to once Sri Ravi Shankar's ashram. I've been many times to Swami Dayanand Saraswati's ashram in Rishikesh and here in Anaikatti. I found large number of foreigners from Europe and America. And I asked them, why have you come here? Because they're all well-to-do, very rich, well-to-do people. Why have you come here? He said, we have come to learn how to be happy. In the Western world, we have got all the material benefits, but we are not happy. So we have come to learn how to be happy. And if you go to the Sanskrit literature, you will find that our philosophy is material progress and spiritual advancement should be harmonized. Only then you can be happy. When I was a student for my PhD at Harvard, my American classmate asked me, how you Indians followed Mahatma Gandhi. I said, why? What's wrong with it? What is wrong? What is wrong that he said that we should not follow him? He said, no, he does not dress properly. He only has one piece of cloth around him. And he walks half naked. How can you follow such a person? I said, in your country, does a leader have to be well dressed? He said, yes. He must have the best tie, he must have the best shirt, he must have the best coat and shining shoes. Otherwise, not possible. Even the religious leaders of the Christians and Muslims, they are so well dressed. But have you seen how Swami Dayanand Saraswati is dressed? Or Swami Vivekananda was dressed? Or Aurobindo was dressed? Very simple. And here, our Swamiji here, how simply dressed he is. But we respect him. I asked the American that if Gandhi came to America to lead your people, what will you do? He said, we'll put him in jail for indecent exposure. That is the mindset. For us, Gandhi was learning. Gandhi was sacrifice. The more sacrifice you do in this country, the greater is the appreciation of the public. And that is how today we are a continuing civilization. The UNESCO has tabulated 46 civilizations. Of them, 45 have disappeared. Only one is surviving as a continuous civilization, and that is the Hindustan civilization. Greeks civilization disappeared. Egyptian disappeared. Mesopotamia disappeared. Zoroastrian disappeared from Persia. But this country, the civilization is still continuing. And now we have to bind it together and create a renaissance. All the baggage that we have received from the past has to be therefore got rid of so that we become a strong, vibrant country which communicates with each other in a language which has value in science, with a language which has relevance to the future, which is computer science. The future is going to be run by computerization, and the language for it is Sanskrit. So the language of the future, the language of the past, is today not the language of the present, but it is our time to commit ourselves to say, I don't know Sanskrit, but my children will learn Sanskrit. And if your children are too big to learn Sanskrit, then your grandchildren will learn Sanskrit. I will arrange tuition for them, every house. And if you teach your children or your grandchildren Sanskrit, tell them on Sunday they must only speak Sanskrit and nothing else. make Sanskrit a habit. And as far as the government is concerned, we will find ways by which, by the time we finish 5 years of our term, Sanskrit will become a language in every school and college of the country. So I especially thank Sanskrita Bharatam for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to more and more opportunities, and I myself will brush up my Sanskrit and start speaking wherever it is possible. Thank you very much.